Imagine this. OnePlus is about to make a big upgrade to its future phones. And somehow, that could end up being a gift to iPhone users instead. Sounds backwards? Let's unpack it. Rumors say OnePlus is planning to push their next flagships to a 165Hz refresh rate display. Now, if you're thinking, wow, that's gotta be amazing, you're not alone. On paper, a higher refresh rate sounds like pure progress. The screen refreshes 165 times per second, which means scrolling looks smoother, animations feel more fluid, and gaming can reach new levels of responsiveness. Compared to a basic 60Hz display, it's like going from watching a flipbook to watching a movie. But here's the twist. Most people don't actually need 165Hz on a phone. In fact, many users can barely tell the difference once you're above 120Hz, which is already considered ultra smooth for smartphones. That's why even companies like Samsung and Google have settled in around 120Hz for their flagships. Anything higher starts to feel like chasing numbers instead of real-world improvement. And that's where this gets interesting, because Apple, famously, doesn't play the spec sheet race the same way. They've kept promotion displays at 120Hz since introducing them, focusing more on consistent performance, battery life, and efficiency rather than maxing out refresh rates. If OnePlus goes full throttle with 165Hz, it might actually make Apple's approach look smarter in the long run. See, higher refresh rates come with trade-offs. They can demand more processing power, drain battery faster, and even require display hardware that's more expensive to produce. That extra smoothness in theory could mean your phone dies an hour earlier in practice, and for most users, that's not a trade-off worth making. What's more, mobile apps and games need to be optimized to actually take advantage of those refresh rates. Right now, a lot of games cap out well below 165 frames per second, and many streaming apps top out at 60 fps video. So unless you're a competitive mobile gamer with eyes sharper than a hawk's, most of that extra smoothness is going to be invisible day to day. This is where iPhone users might get the win. If OnePlus and potentially other Android brands start pushing specs like 165Hz, it sets up an easy comparison for Apple. They can position themselves as the brand that doesn't chase empty numbers but focuses on balanced, meaningful upgrades. Apple's marketing thrives on that kind of narrative. They don't have to convince people they can do 165Hz, just that they choose not to because they value battery, efficiency, and real-world use over spec bragging rights. And here's the thing, Apple's restraint often pays off in the long game. When they finally do introduce something new, it tends to feel more refined because they wait until the technology is both mature and practical. By contrast, if OnePlus rushes into 165Hz now, they may face issues like app incompatibility, uneven battery drain, or minimal user benefit that could give Apple the perfect told you so moment without even lifting a finger. There's also the perception game. When Android brands keep hiking numbers, more megapixels, more hertz, more everything, but everyday experience doesn't change much, it risks making their upgrades feel hollow over time. Apple, by staying measured, keeps every improvement feeling deliberate. And let's be honest, sometimes it's not the brand with the most features that wins, it's the brand that makes those features feel necessary. That's not to say 165Hz is pointless for gamers who play competitive shooters or racing games. On mobile, it could give a tangible advantage. It might also appeal to a niche group of tech enthusiasts who want the absolute smoothest UI possible. But for the average person, the kind who uses Instagram, TikTok, messaging, browsing, and occasional gaming, that bump from 120Hz to 165Hz will feel more like a spec sheet footnote than a revolution. Ironically, if this rumor plays out, it could show how sometimes progress isn't about going forward. It's about knowing where to stop. OnePlus could end up highlighting Apple's restraint without even meaning to. And in the competitive smartphone market, that kind of contrast is marketing gold. So yes, OnePlus might be going all in on 165Hz, and for a certain crowd, that'll be exciting. But for most people, especially iPhone users watching from the sidelines, this move might just reinforce the idea that sometimes less really is more. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.